Your research, as I indicated, has focused on family decision-making. One of your recent projects involves a consideration of how parents choose which caregiving tasks to outsource and which to undertake themselves. Obviously, this is a time period where many parents, both parents work outside the home, so this is an important area for us to be considering. Could you share with us a little bit about the process you used to investigate this question, a little bit of the results, and how you think the results can be used?
So the idea for the study actually came from watching a news story about outsourcing parenthood, which I had never heard of before. And it was a sensationalized account. It was a sensationalized account about all of these new parenting services that were available. So things like having a nanny in the clouds that could sit with your kids during a flight, or hiring an expert to give your kids campus tours, or in bigger cities, having a kiddie cab that would pick your kids up from school and drive them around to the various activities that they do. And as I was reading it, I was thinking, first, what would cause a preponderance of these kinds of marketing services to occur? And second, how are parents really navigating this space where they're trying to figure out what to outsource and what to do themselves in a time where all of this is available? And so on the first question about why these services were emerging, there's lots of good macro level data on the kinds of trends that might lead to a care deficit. So things like dwindling public services, rise in dual income families, a rise in single parent families where that person is working full time, and also separation of family. So family living farther away from extended family members where, traditional forms of support, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins that used to step in and kind of act as a backup for families really are missing. And so the marketplace itself swooped in to close this care deficit. And in doing so, they actually raised the perceived expectations for parents. So if you just think about things like the professionally designed birthday parties. My kids are 2 and 5 now, so I see this on my horizon as something I'm gonna have to deal with, that rising expectation. And then coupled with that is just the idea that parenthood today is much more on display than it has ever been before. So parents are on social media, they're participating in all sorts of Facebook parenting groups, and all of their actions are really on display. And so that leads to this sense, among parents at least that have been in my studies, of this idea that there's a moral economy around parenting, where every decision that we make seems very consequential, it seems judged, and it seems on display. And so to answer the second question, which was really about how parents make sense of their choices on what to outsource, I wanted to design a study that would allow me to look at the lived experience of parents. So along with my PhD student, who was former PhD student, now my co-author, Sunaina Vela-Galeti, we talked to 23 sets of parents across diverse socioeconomic backgrounds, different ages and ranges of children, and across really diverse metropolitan areas, because as you might imagine, these services are more available in larger cities. So we didn't just do studies with parents in Madison. We also interviewed people in Chicago and Atlanta and San Francisco and New York to get a sense of their experience. And what we found was that there are 3 basic tensions that parents face when they make these outsourcing decisions that matter in how they decide what to outsource. First, they worry about control. They want to know that they can direct care even in their absence, so they make all sorts of really detailed lists for things like party planners to make sure that their kid's birthday party is really personalized. Second, they worry about intimacy. They want to know that they are able to retain that emotional connection with their kids. So lots of examples of parents going back and forth with the nanny during the day so that the nanny knew they were emotionally available for their children when they were physically absent. And finally, they worry about substitutability, right? They don't want to be replaced in their kids' minds. And so especially for activities that are culturally iconic activities, they tend to retain those for themselves. So no one wants their kid to remember that Bob from REI taught them to ride a bike instead of their dad, right? So I think perhaps most importantly from that study, what we learned is that these sources of support that they lean on, family, what parents lovingly refer to as the village or their tribe of like-minded parents, public resources like after-school programs, or the marketplace, all have varying degrees of both heightening and alleviating these tensions. So if you outsource to parents, we don't call that outsourcing, if you outsource to your extended family, that alleviates tensions of substitutability. Nobody is worried that grandma's going to take their place because she has her own role. But it increases tensions around control because there are relational consequences for telling grandma exactly how to do something. And the opposite, the converse is true for the marketplace. So the marketplace increases substitutability tensions, just like in the Bob REI example, whereas it alleviates control tensions because the marketplace, we're paying the marketplace, and so we have no problem telling them exactly what we want them to do. So that study, there's lots of other findings. Obviously, I don't have time to go through all of those. But in terms of the impact of that research, one of the things I wanted to share is that I gave a presentation at the Center for Child and Family Wellbeing, which is a group of family scholars here on campus, interdisciplinary group, and it's also a collection of community-minded people who are interested in family research. I gave a talk there because I think it's very important to discuss the implications of this for parents in alleviating their anxiety about seeking help, because everybody needs help. For caring for their kids, and also for alleviating those kinds of tensions. And then, of course, I think it has direct implications for companies, public policymakers, on the broad front of how to design policies and services that help alleviate tensions. And on a broader level, I think it raises new questions about the commercialization of our intimate life. So what are the boundaries of the marketplace and how they shouldn't be involved in life? So I bring that into my classroom, in my consumer behavior class, and open that kind of discussion up to the students.